Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, retirement specialist and six-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
Some 12 years ago, armed with a degree in psychology and intrigued by the fact that so many people who said they didn't like taking risk with their money kept taking risk with it, I was greatly influenced by the time of a book written by Mr. Benjamin Graham called The Intelligent Investor, a book that attempted to explain in part why savers would be willing to take risk by investing in things they did not understand. This book and his findings revealed what I thought all along to be true as well, that people mainly are hardwired for safety, not risk. In fact, I became so consumed with a better understanding of why many people take risk when they don't have to, that I wrote this book, The 3 Personalities of Money, and spent a great deal of time and money by hiring a couple of psychology professors from my old alma mater, Western Kentucky University, to create a test, more like a quiz if you will, that would help people discover and confirm their financial personalities. After all this research, I concluded that when you boil it all down, there really are only 3 types of financial personalities that we fall into. We are either predominantly a saver, an investor, or a speculator. And how did this simple little 5-minute quiz change the way me, my staff, and my clients view money in retirement? Well, we're about to find out. So welcome, folks, to the Worry-Free Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, financial personality specialist and full-time fiduciary, Tony Walker. And before I demonstrate live on the air how the 3 Personalities of Money quiz can help you determine your financial personality so you can invest in things you understand, let me introduce to you 2 very interesting personalities who put this show on each week, America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orander, along with Louisville, Kentucky's most laid-back graphics artist, Mr. Derek Hudson. So for discussion purposes, let's assume there are only 3 financial personalities as I outlined in my book, The 3 Personalities of Money. First, the saver, who, according to the late great Will Rogers, once said, he described them as someone who is much more concerned with the return of their money than on it. Then we have the investor personality. This is someone who, after much research and trust in their own judgment of the future, is confident investing their money in things that could grow in value significantly, yet also understands that they are taking calculated risks with their money. And while an investor hates to lose money, they also know that the gains that can be had from taking calculated risks are there for the taking. And then finally, we have that very rare breed of someone called a speculator, one that would be just as comfortable putting it all on one color and letting her ride. In other words, easy come, easy go. So there you have it, the 3 financial personalities according to Tony Walker. Now, the big question everyone needs to be able to answer before heading off into retirement and blindly investing their money in things they don't understand is, which one are you? Well, I'm Tony Walker. We'll be right back. Good stuff coming your way.
Hello, this is Juanita Jackson with Tony Walker Financial, and today I'm addressing some of the most common questions that I'm asked during new business. Clients often ask, once they open their account, how can they access their money when they need to? They want to know, if I need to make a withdrawal, who do I contact and how long will that take? Typically, a money link is set up on brokerage accounts at the time they're opened. This links the client's personal bank account to their Charles Schwab account. The rest is easy. Just call our office and let a staff member know you need to make a withdrawal. At that time, they'll verify the client's identity, discuss the details of the distribution, verify the bank account on file and tax withholdings if that's applicable. our trading department will raise cash in the account and process the distribution. Funds will hit the client's personal bank account 2 business days later.
Our Tony Walker Financial Client Spotlight today focuses on Patty and Robert Jarboe.
Pretty much every time the stock market would crash, I would stress out and probably cry. And every single day I was on the phone looking at the stock market.
And I just said, what am I going to do now? I'm getting older and I lost half my money. That's when I started thinking, I need an exit plan here. I'm getting tired of getting older and I'm getting tired of trying to deal with this every day. So I'm looking for an exit plan. And that's where Tony came in.
The more he mentioned Tony Walker, the better I felt. And once we did go see Tony Walker, it pretty much took all of the anxiety, all of the stress. It just took it away from me, especially when he told us and showed us the amount we were going to get each month, and I was ready to sign the paper right then and there, and I think we did. We definitely have traveled and planned a lot more traveling.
What is our next one?
Our next one is in December, and we're going to Belize and Cozumel and Honduras.
And for my 70th birthday, we're going to
Italy and Greece.
Italy and Greece, yes.
Now that we know we have a steadier income.
We're going from a saver to a spender. We're going to eat the good bacon.
Exactly.
Looking for an advisor you can trust? Schedule your free phone call with Tony at TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call 1-877-499-9255.
Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. In case you're just now joining us, we are talking about the concept I created years ago called the 3 personalities of money, as I described in this book, which is available on Amazon or any major bookseller. Oh, by the way, before we get started, got to have a shout out to Maxine over in Shelbyville, Kentucky, apparently a regular watcher, so thank you, Maxine, for watching the show. So what is this 3 personalities of money all about, and how we at Tony Walker Financial use this principle to determine whether someone's personality is a fit for our services or if that person is better suited to those who serve the needs of investors and speculators. Now, the financial world doesn't care what financial personality you are. Instead, they use something called a risk tolerance questionnaire, which in the end assumes everybody is just okay with taking some risk. Yet, there are 2 types of risk in understanding human behavior and how we handle risk. And to help us more understand the difference between these 2, I'm going to turn it over to fellow fiduciary Wes Walker.
Yeah, so when evaluating somebody's ability and willingness to take risk, we use 2 different terms. One's called risk tolerance, and the other one is called risk capacity. Risk tolerance is somebody's willingness to bear risk. So if they're okay having a big allocation of stocks or even more aggressive assets. Somebody's risk capacity is whether they are actually able to take that kind of risk given their asset levels and their time horizons. Just as an example, you might have, say, an older widower who has very little in assets. They might tell you that, yeah, I have a really high risk tolerance, but unfortunately, they don't have a very high ability to take risk because they'll need the money sooner than later, and it's really all the savings they have. Juxtapose that with a married couple with all sorts of money invested, they still might say we have a very low risk tolerance. They don't like to see the money moving around a lot, and they don't like a lot of volatility. In that case, they would have a high ability to take risk, but their risk tolerance would still be low.
By the way, as we record this show at the end of November 2024, talking about savers rushing to speculate with their money, 2 of the most popular items to speculate in today are gold and, of all things, Bitcoin. And while I'm not telling you not to put your money at either of these places, be aware, saver, that you are falling into the definition of what Benjamin Graham says about changing your stripes and going from safety and being a saver to now possibly becoming a speculator. So let's understand this 5-minute quiz I had 2 psychology professors at Western Kentucky University conduct for me years ago, and now we can look at the perspective of how myself would take this quiz and actually my late great father-in-law, Mr. Bill Moore, and how he would answer these same questions. So what I'm going to do, we're going to take this quiz right now, and I'm going to answer the questions honestly and openly as they come up. So let's take a look at this. Okay, I've got Aaron at the helm on the mouse, so we're going to click there, Aaron, on Take the Test to the upper left. Again, folks, we're at the 3personalities.com website. After he clicks there, you're going to have to check that little box that you've read the terms, hit Next, and let's blow through these real quick. If given the choice between a high-risk yield investment or low-risk yield investment, I would choose the latter. That would be agree, so check agree there, Aaron. I'd rather spend time doing things I enjoy doing versus researching stocks, etc. Another agree for old Tony here. If I had a windfall gain, would I put it back in the place that I got the money? May not do that, so hit disagree on that, Aaron. I don't know if I'd necessarily put it back in or not. I'm an emotional buyer. I can afford some things I have, but I make purchases anyway because at some point it'll work out the end. I'd put disagree on that. I'm not really that kind of buyer. I'm more likely to buy a stock rather than a guaranteed investment or a savings product. That would be a disagree. I only have about 5% of my money in the stock market now. Next. Again, this is very quick, folks. You can take this very easily. I can accept losses more easily than others. That strongly disagree. I don't like losing money. I'm a thrill seeker. Neither agree nor disagree. I did go zip lining in the back jungles of, where was that? Costa Rica. Man, that was scary, but it was actually pretty fun. I enjoy analyzing buying decisions based on research. Disagree on that one. I like guarantees. Strongly agree on that one. I have no problem taking advantage of the situation at hand. That's neither agree nor disagree. That would be like, you'll see this, maybe a speculator. They have an opportunity to make a gajillion dollars. They're going to jump on it, so to speak, regardless of risk. Number 11, I will take a chance once I've done my homework. Sometimes I will. Put agree on that one. Next, we go to one more page here. I want financial products that are very predictable. That's strongly agree. I'm an impulse buyer. I'd say disagree on that. When challenged, I do not know the real details of the true. No, I'd say disagree on that. I'm in this world. I have to know that. The expression no risk, no reward definitely fits me. Disagree. I don't like to take a lot of risk. I do like the old saying, a penny saved is a penny earned, so put agree on that, Aaron. And here's how easy it is. Let's populate the test. Here's your quiz. And there you go. Predominantly a saver. I knew that, but it's telling you that this is a valid test. Now, I'm going to pretend I'm the late, great Mr. Moore, who was an investor. I know this, but I'm going to take the same test, just like I was Mr. Moore, and just to make sure that you understand, this test is very accurate. So Aaron's going through it again, taking the test. Number 1, I would not put it in a low-yield investment, so I would choose the latter. That is strongly disagree. I would rather stay high-risk, high-yield. I'd rather spend my time doing things like fishing, etc., or researching stocks. That would be disagree, although Mr. Moore was a big fisherman, as evidenced by these lures that hang proudly in my favorite son-in-law's office downstairs. He's a big fisherman, but he loved researching stocks. Number 3, if he had a windfall, he would put it back into the upside potential versus a safe option. That is an agree. In fact, click agree there, Aaron, because I know he had a stock that he that's number 3. I know the mouse is acting up. That's all right, number 3. He had a stock that the dividends from that stock poured back in. He just kept pouring them back in that stock. Number 4, I'm an emotional buyer. I make purchases anyway. That's disagree. He was not an emotional buyer. I'm more likely to buy a stock rather than a guaranteed investment or savings product. That is a strongly agree. Here and there. Okay. He's trying. I can accept losses more either than others. Agree on that one. I'm a thrill seeker. Neither agree nor disagree. I don't think Mr. Moore is a thrill seeker. I enjoy analyzing buying decisions. This is strongly agree. I don't know if you remember in the old days, he had those paper Consumer Report magazines. I mean, he would pour through those things for an hour on whether to buy, one dishwasher over another. And then back then, there's only 3. I didn't think it was that big a deal, but he loved analyzing buying decision. Like guarantees, actually, I would put agree on this. He did own an annuity that paid a very high interest rate. So although I would say Mr. Moore is an investor, he did like guarantees. I have no problem taking advantage of the situation at hand. That's an agree. I remember there was a condo that came up for sale years ago down in Fort Myers before most people even knew much about Fort Myers area, and he jumped on that quickly. So he did know a good deal and would jump on an investment. I will take a chance once I've done my homework. That's an agree. He was very much methodical in what he was going to do. Again, these are questions that I think Mr. Moore would answer in this manner. I want financial products that are very predictable. Go and put agree on that, Aaron. I'm an impulse buyer. Strongly disagree. He never was an impulse buyer. When challenged, I do not know the real details or the true impact of current events. That's a disagree. He knew a lot about the markets. The expression, no risk, no reward, definitely fits me. That's an agree. A penny saved is a penny earned. I mean, I think he was thrifty. We'll go on and put an agree on that. And then Aaron's going to hit the next, and it's going to populate what was Mr. Moore. There you go. He's an investor. Now, let me add something to this. Just because you're an investor, depending on your age, you still may be a candidate for Tony Walker Financial. Why is that? Because what I see in my practice as people age, sometimes that investor mentality, they just don't want to monkey with this stuff anymore. They're satisfied with what they've got, and they're at a stage in life either for themselves or a spouse that they may be concerned about at the time of their death, that everything is taken care of, which is what we specialize in Tony Walker Financial. We are retirement planners first and then investors in second. We are helping savers worry less about money by first creating these game plans and then building the assets around their personality and the written game plan. So first of all, if you don't know your financial personality, that's a problem. Second of all, if you don't have a written game plan in retirement, that's a huge ordeal. So to learn more about our services, why don't you do this right now? Why don't you log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, click on that Let's Get Started button, or give us a call anytime at 877-499-9255. We'll be right back. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today.
And now it's time for Tony in the Trenches. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us here on the WorryFree Retirement. I've got our next Tony in the Trenches right here, so let's get to it. This TNT comes to us from Dave in Louisville. Tony, I know you say you only work with savers, so how come you offer investments through Charles Schwab? Isn't that pretty risky?
Boy, this is an interesting question because it almost sounds like we're kind of talking out of both sides of our mouth. This show is dedicated and emphasizing why we at Tony Walker Financial mainly work with what's called the saver personality, which is that person who's more concerned about the return of their money than on it. And as basically Dave's mentioned in here, wait a minute, Tony, you got this Charles Schwab thing. I mean, right now, as of the date of this recording, we have over $300 million with Charles Schwab. I think we're up to 2,600 accounts. So you might say, yeah, why are you with Charles Schwab? Aren't they full of risk? Well, not necessarily. So Charles Schwab is where we get our stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, bank products. But yeah, for the most part, when we start mentioning Charles Schwab, we always make sure our clients know there is the chance that you could lose money. That's just part of it. So then you might say, well, wait a minute, Tony, you're retirement planners, you're talking about all this safe money. Why in the world would you incorporate Charles Schwab? And here's why. Because we first need the liquidity that Charles Schwab offers. And second, there are some people who want to put some of their money, let me repeat, some of their money in a position for growth. So how do we pull this off? What does this actually look like? Well, then comes our split IRA concept. And folks, there's a lot of people in the industry, even the big boys who used to trash annuities years ago, they're starting to emulate this. We've been doing this for over 20 years. We understand how to put this together. So if you're hearing people talk about buckets and investments and annuities, that's fine. They can sell you all that stuff. But the process of what goes on behind the scenes and monitoring these buckets throughout retirement, now that takes some skill. And that's why we have this proprietary process called the WorryFree Retirement along with the game plan. So if you would, Aaron, put this full screen up. You can see one of these game plans here. Look at this. We've got a variety of products here, different types of fixed annuities, different Schwab accounts. In fact, we have 5 strategies with Schwab right now when we could do money markets all the way to pretty much super aggressive strategies. So you can pick and choose and mingle and mangle however you want to do these. We'll do whatever you want to do. But in most cases, we don't put all of the money with Charles Schwab. So as you're looking at the split IRA, again, that Schwab bucket is for the liquidity, and if you want to take some risk, you can do that. And then we have the annuity, or sometimes we'll have multiple annuities. They're there for the base. They're not going to go down in value. In fact, I remember in 2008, I didn't even have any money in the stock market. I had all these clients and all these fixed annuities. A lot of the financial world was probably thinking, what's that Walker guy doing over there? Well, I'll tell you what, when the market went down 50%, none of our clients in 2008 lost a penny. So the annuities are there for protection, but also, depending on the type of annuity we might put in that bucket, that's where we get our beloved
mailbox money.
So if that's you right now, if you're sitting there saying, Tony, I got money spread out all over the place. I think I'm at too much risk. I'm worried about a market downturn. I don't have a plan. Sure don't have anything like this with a retirement planning firm that knows how to monitor this. Why don't you do this? Take advantage of something we call the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call, where we will sit down over the phone for a few minutes. And if it warrants, if I think I'm going to be able to be of help to you, I'm going to meet with you in person at either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices to talk to you about your situation. So do it now. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call us anytime at 877-499-9255. So when I return, does the Bible have anything to say about financial personalities? Not really, but it does get into what's called the outer man, which will help us understand the difference between why we always seem to be content at one point and then we struggle a minute later. It's the same thing the Apostle Paul struggled with, but we've got an answer for you. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Looking to roll over your 401k? Then log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and learn just how easy it is to roll over and safeguard your 401k. Do it today. In his classic work, The Intelligent Investor, author Benjamin Graham makes this observation as to the dangers of savers risking their money. The real danger exists of savers looking like speculators when they invest in risky products that they do not understand. What we want to avoid is savers unknowingly becoming speculators. Well, my question, why in the world would a saver who is not wired to take risk with their money turn around and take risk by, let's say, investing 100% of it in the stock market within their 401k plan, especially when that saver is retired or just a few years away from retirement? I warned about this way back in 2007 when I saw savers putting most of their life savings into the stock market when it was all-time highs back then. And what happened? That's right, 2008. Not what I'd call
sweep insolence.
So now here we are once again, November of 2024, and the stock market is at its highest point ever, just like it was in 2008. And what do I see savers doing right now? Keeping all of their money in the stock market, which goes against their saver personality, which, if they are retired or nearing retirement, they should be putting less in the stock market, not taking more risk with it. They should be backing off on the stock market within the 401k. Now, assuming there were 401k plans back in Jesus' day, it sounds like the Apostle Paul can relate to this idea of doing things you know you shouldn't be doing when he exclaims in Romans 7:15 the following, "For what I am doing I do not understand. For what I will to do, that I do not practice, but what I hate, that I do." But why? Why would we humans go against the personality that God has wired us to be and instead do things against the very spirit God has given us? One explanation Paul gives is reminding us that we have two competing lives going on within us. Something called the outer man, that in my opinion, that would represent our unique personalities that our flesh uses to interact with the world. And secondly, we have the inner man, that being our spirit and the new spirit we are given when we turn our lives over to God. Paul saw these two forces at work when in Romans 7:22 he says the following, "I delight in the law of God according to the inner man," not the outer man. Why? Because in 2 Corinthians 4:16, Paul is reminded that we do not wish to be ruled by the outer man because our outer man is decaying. Clearly a reference to the flesh that will at some point shrivel up, decay, and die. And therein lies the daily battle of the outer man, not wishing to die, to the inner man. Yet for God's Spirit to liberate us from the outer man, we must die. and that's the hard part. We, in our strong God-given personalities, do not wish to change our stripes because we know on our own we cannot. But if we are willing to put to death the outer man, we are told in Scripture that God's Spirit will literally break through. And yes, even with money, folks, this outer man condition might help to explain why we who are savers sometimes invest in things we do not understand and take risks that we know will keep us up at night worrying about the future. It's the outer man. So what is the solution? Well, John tells us in 12:24 where Jesus says, "Unless one kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a seed. But if it dies, guess what? It bears much fruit." Translation, "He who loves his life will lose it, but he who hates his life in this world will keep it for eternity." Jesus basically said the same thing in Matthew 6:24, where he says we cannot love both God and ourselves, for we are going to love the one, but we're going to hate the other. So, Christian, you want to be set free from the bondage of sin and the strong personality of yours? You're going to have to do what 1 Corinthians 15:31 says to do, and that's put that flesh to death each and every day. But just as sure as you must break up the ground to sow seeds, so too our flesh must be broken. The outer man, that is, has to be broken for the inner man to break free. Thankfully, Jesus died giving us his Spirit and the power to break free and overcome our outer man so that God's Spirit, his seed, which has been planted within us, can break free and live. So how do we each and every day live life to its fullest through the power and strength of this inner man? Well, we can start with praying as Paul prayed back in Ephesians 3:16, the following, where he admonishes the following: that God would grant us according to the riches of his glory to be strengthened with might through his Spirit, we're in the inner man. And why would we do this? Well, you go to verse 17, so that Christ may dwell in our hearts through faith, to which I would say a resounding amen. Well, as we share with you the secret to a worry-free retirement, that being able to confirm how we have been hardwired for money, I've got a question for you right now. Do you truly know what your financial personality is? And if not, why not when we have this simple little 5-minute quiz that you can take? It's absolutely free and comes to you at no obligation. Now, after you take that quiz, if you are a saver and if you're retired or nearing retirement, well, we need to talk. And it's easy to do. We call it the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call, where you and I will talk for just a few minutes to see if we can help. And if we can, we are going to meet in person to review your finances for a free second opinion at either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. So take advantage of this free offer by logging on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Click on that Let's Get Started or call us anytime at 877-499-9255. Well, we're out of time for today's show. We appreciate you being with us, but you remember, between now and next week, if all else fails, you be worry-free and you make it a good one.